Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking through my reading journal for the quarter. I was supposed to post this at the end of March, but depression hit, and then I promised to post it at the beginning of April, but then I didn't finish the book that I was supposed to finish in the quarter, so we're here now. So I'm gonna preface this right now because this is literally the 6th time that I'm recording this because something is going on with my editor, and I'm so sick of it at this point. So I'm just gonna try and keep going. I'm just gonna try and keep going and get through it. So, preface. Words are hard today. I journal for the sake of memory keeping with my books when I read them in this journal. So the journal entries will have major spoilers in them. If you don't want spoilers for these books, don't read the journal entries. In the voiceover, I will try my hardest to not spoil anything. But there will be some like talking points that might spoil. It's not like big events. It's just like, this is a situation that happens. I won't go in depth in this situation, but you kind of need it for the talking point, if that makes sense. So the first book we're going through is White Cat. White Cat is a book that I read this book a couple of years ago when I first got it, and I decided it was a good reread to start my reading journal with, as well as just my reading journey with, because it is one of the shorter books that I have. I think it could quite possibly be the shortest book that I have. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not counting the manga that I have, because that's more pictures than words. But I believe this is one of the shortest books that I own. It's by Holly Black, and it is the first book in the trilogy of Curse Workers. So in this one, we follow Cassell Sharp in the Sharp family of con people. Curse Workers are basically people who have the power to change, lock memories, stuff like that. And Cassell is the black sheep in his family. He does not have this power, or so we think. I think is what it's going on about. But this book reunited my love for mysteries. I used to read books like Nancy Drew and stuff like that when I was younger, and this book, holy heck, is it written so beautifully. Not only does Holly Black have a way of making you dislike a character simply because of how well she portrays them, but also because there's valid reasons behind why the characters in the book dislike this person, and then there are relatable reasons to the reader to dislike this person as well. Because if these people were real life people, you'd want to punch them in the face. That's how well she's written these characters, where it's like you'd wish they were a real life person so that they can face consequences for their actions. But here in White Cat, essentially the way that this book starts is with Cassell Sharp admitting to the murder of his best friend, Lila, which for me wasn't a red flag until I got halfway through the book, and I literally had to backtrack and go to the front and start tagging it as a clue to this mystery, because it truly, because of the way he was talking about it, it didn't make sense to me that he actually did it. But you find out more of it in the story. But this is so well written. I'm trying so hard to not spoil it because I write so much of it down. But it's like, the one thing I think that stuck with me is that it's a family that uses its family to better itself, as in like, and not in a good way. It's like the family members use each other to put themselves up, and it's a mess and a half, really, but it adds to the story. It truly does add to the story. So I had to stop for a minute because I needed to just wait for the chickens outside to stop doing what they were doing. But this book, I'm trying to remember where I left off in the voiceover, and I can't. So we're just going to continue what I want to say. I don't know what's happening anymore. But the main mystery of it is amazing. Because essentially you're trying to figure out why Cassell is admitting to murdering his best friend. Because the way that he talks about this situation doesn't allude to him actually committing the crime, right? You get that in the first page. I think the first 6 paragraphs in this book, you get that. But later on, you realize what it means for this family to be a family of con people. You realize that these con artists will stop at nothing to make their con work. But Cassell has this way. He is a con artist without these powers. And he does them in a way that is technically illegal, I think. But like they're more dark gray on the morality scale than they are gray. Or they're more like black. You know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean, because I don't understand. Multiple cons happen in this story. Like multiple cons go on. But 2 of my favorite ones is the first one that happens, I think, about like maybe 6 or 7. It could be 10 chapters in. And then the next one happens at the very end with a reunited cast of members. And the con is spectacular. The first one is, it has you on the edge of your seat wondering if they're gonna pull it off, and when they do pull it off, it's the relief and the sort of like high that you get, the adrenaline is amazing. The way Holly Black writes is insane. Kudos to her. I want to read the other ones. The last one is insane as well. It's so good. The last con is great because it just blows up everybody else's cons while making the victim the winner, if that makes sense. I won't spoil that. You have to read it for yourself for you to get the proper energy of it. But I will go into characters a little bit. Cassell, the main character, he is a human being. Like the way that he's written, he is a human being. He makes mistakes. He'll own up to them if he realizes that he makes mistakes. But he is a human being. His brother, his grandfather is an OG. Like, I freaking love his grandfather. His grandfather's great. He is also human. He has his issues, but at the end of the day, he was on Cassell's side, which I really appreciated. His mother is a piece of work. And his brother Philip is another piece of work that if he was a real life person, I'd punch him in the face. I hate Philip. Philip is my least favorite character in this entire book. And that is because Holly wrote him to be the least favorite character, and she did it well. I don't know what else to say about that, but oh my goodness, you'd have to read it to understand what I'm saying, because I'm trying my hardest to not spoil. But this world is beautiful, and while The Curse Workers is a trilogy, I think the overall world of The Curse Workers is a part of the other book series that Holly writes, and I want to get all of them, just so you know. But at the end of the day, I gave this book a 4.25 stars based using the Copal rating system. So its score was 8.42, which for me gave it 4.25 stars, because I added a couple star ratings in. If you see my my setup for this, you would see that my star ratings are a tiny bit different from the original, but that is White Cat. Next book, we're going into February now, so I only read White Cat in January. In February, I read 2 books. I read Matched and Eleanor Park, and this first one we're setting up is Matched. Obviously, Matched is the first book in the Matched trilogy by Ali Condi. And let me tell you, the first line in this journal entry is, "Note to self, try not to watch an anime with a similar theme before reading any book." I will tell you that the anime that I watched before I read this book was Dr. Stone. If you know Dr. Stone, then you kind of have a rough gist of the timeline or the type of setting that this series is set in. I'm pretty sure people have already read Matched, because it's been out for quite a while. I've had these books when they came out. I think a couple years after they came out, and I'm only now just getting around to reading them. But Matched, I think, is beautifully written as well. Ali Condi does some great work with giving you characters, giving you backstory, giving you the environment without giving you everything in the first book. Because it's a trilogy, she's giving you the seeds in the first book. And I just finished the second book as I'm recording this. In the second book, you're getting like the saplings, right? And I'm thinking in the third book, you're going to get the full tree. But this is, I'm so glad I read this book. I'm so glad I started this series, because Matched is a post-apocalyptic world. It's essentially like humans are restarting after the warming, which I'm guessing is global warming, has like destroyed the planet, to a point where it's basically turned into like the Attack on Titan cities, where like you're walled off, you're in certain cities, and stuff like that. But then there's also like, there's a whole, I don't know if the word is cultural or it's societal, because the main quote unquote government is called the society. And they've made a mess of things. It feels like they have gotten into a whole kerfuffle of trying to control these people with what they do, what they learn, what they say, what they wear, what they eat, how they work, how they live. It is a mess. I personally hate it because it's so constricting. But the way that it's done in this story is like, you can understand where the society is coming from, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing is good for the people. You know what I mean? Like, the people aren't allowed to be creative. They aren't allowed to create new things. You can only read, view, and listen to the 100s, like the selection of the 100s, which is 100 pieces of each type of art form. So like paintings, music, poems, I think it is, stories, and a couple other things. And I think it's because I'm a creative person why I think it's so crippling to live in a society like this. But then, like any society like this, you will always have a rebellion. I think at the end of this book you get introduced to the rebellion. If not, I'm spoiling the second book, which whoops. But this book, holy, it's such a good start. It starts, so Matched is referencing to the matching ceremony that happens in the book. I believe it's on the back of the book that Cassia, the main female protagonist, it's her matching day. This whole story starts with it being her matching day, which basically is a day where the society says, hey, based on all the data we've collected on you, this is your partner for the rest of your life, and you're going to make more babies, and you can only have X amount of babies because resources, it's not even resources, it's because like the society has figured out like this is the perfect amount of children for each couple to have, to continue the cycle of humanity or whatever the hell. It's so mind-bogglingly tyranny in a way where it's like if that was done now, it'd probably be a good thing, because there's like 8 billion people on this planet, and eventually we're gonna run out of resources, right? But we're not stopping that. But the way that people are trying to stop it is not a good way. I'm not gonna get into that. Anyways, but this book makes you want to figure out what is going on with the people, the big higher ups. And it focuses, I think, more on the relationship between Cassia and the people around her and her matched partner, Xander, who is her best friend from like forever ever. And they get matched. But there's also a turn in that where there's a third party involved, and I'ma just say it, shit gets real. Shit gets real. And you kind of are up on this throne thingy of, not really a throne. It's like you're up in the air about if Cassia is a good person, if Xander is a good person. We all have these feelings, or like it's a general feeling that the society is not necessarily neutral, but they're like the bad, not I want to say the bad guys. They're like, if the bad guys were pretending to be neutral and saying that they're doing this for the good of the people, but you don't really understand why they're doing this, how they're doing this, and all of that. It's a real thinker. It makes you think real hard about it. But I do recommend this series. I truly do. I think it's just my investigative brain wanting to get to the end of it and figure out what's going on. But I did give Matched, on the Cop Out scale, I gave it a 7.4 rating, which for me is a 3.5 stars. I loved it, but I think because I was kind of confused, or like I didn't understand a lot of it, is why the scale seems kind of low. But the actual Cop Out numbers are pretty high. Next, we're on to Eleanor Park, which is a book I've had on my bookshelf for literal years. I think all of my books have been on my shelf for literal years because I've been in a reading slump for past probably 8 or 9 years. And now we're on to, like I said, Eleanor Park. Eleanor Park was a book loaned to me by a friend. And she kind of forgot it existed. So I didn't even remember that I needed to give it back to her, but like I don't know where she is anymore, so I guess it's mine now. Anyways, Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell is a book set in I think it's 1980. I could be wrong. I think it's the 80s. I think it's the 80s it's set in. So it's got themes and language what is it? It's got time accurate language and themes in it, if that makes sense. So there's like racism in it. There's misogyny. There's other stuff like that. I can't think of anything else in my brain without spoiling it. But our two characters, Eleanor and Park. Eleanor is on the bigger side, I believe is what they were saying. I can't remember. I personally didn't see I didn't understand how big she was for them to like make that like a big part of like why the kids pick on her. But she's also ginger. She's incredibly ginger, and I love that for her. And then Park is a Korean American kid. And the other kids are like, nowadays it'd be like, what's going on with you? Why are you the way that you are? You know, Eleanor and Park are just living their life. They're just vibing. Why do you have to ruin that with your stupidity? You know what I mean? So we come across Eleanor and Park. But I think the thing that made me love this book, and I'm not necessarily a fan of romance, but the thing that made me love this book was the fact that the romance sort of felt realistic, and where like these are teenagers, their idea of love is fast, it's quick, it's potent, but it's not fully understood either by them or the people around them. But it's beautiful. When I say it's beautiful, it's freaking beautiful, yo. Eleanor Park share interests in comic books and in music. They introduce each other to different genres of music. I know Park introduces Eleanor to comic books, and Eleanor introduces Park to different types of music. And they get along. Eleanor doesn't have that great of a home life, and her mother prioritizes her relationship with the stepdad more than the safety of her children. And so that's sort of a big topic between the two of them, where Park tries and helps her as best as he can without being too invasive about it. And it's one of those where it's like, if you're in that situation, you kind of understand. If you've witnessed that sort of situation, you kind of understand. Or like if you're just a really big sympathizer to it, you'd understand it really well. But like, yeah, their relationship, when I tell you, it's like, it's one of those where it's like, you read it and you love that these characters have each other. You love that these characters found somebody for each other. And it's so nice to see, so nice to read, and it's just gorge. But yeah, that's Eleanor Park. I don't know what else to say without being spoilery, but yeah, Eleanor is a transfer student. That's a really big thing. She's a transfer student to this very subtly segmented school and area. So like with the themes of the time accurate themes of like racism and stuff. There's very little black people in the school. It is mostly white predominant. And so, but Eleanor befriends the black girls in her class, and it is the greatest thing to see because they help her out so much when the other girls are just immature little twerps. And they're just picking on Eleanor for something she can't control, aka genetics. And so it's like that, and it's a really nice friendship that she develops with those girls, and it's so great. But yeah, I truly don't know what to say without spoiling it. If you're in for like cozy romance between teens that truly don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're trying their damn best, this is a read. This is a read for you if you're sensitive to like time accurate, historical, societal stuff. Maybe take it slow, but I do recommend reading this. I do, just because it's like the overall vibes are like feel good vibes, you know? That's pretty much one of the quotes that I use from the book. This isn't the full quote because it was across like a couple of lines, but it started with, "You can be Han Solo and I'll be Boba Fett. I'll cross the sky for you." I think this is Park to Eleanor, I believe, when they were discussing Star Wars. For some reason, I can't remember why they were talking about Star Wars, but yeah. There are a lot of like very good moments between them, but I picked the one that really stood out to me. I've never watched Star Wars. I don't know why this stood out to me. I've seen enough to know the gist of the universe, but like I don't think I've watched the movie all the way through, but I love the little references to like the comic books of like, I think it's Watchmen or Minutemen comics. I think there were a couple Marvel comics referenced, maybe DC comics. I think Batman was referenced as a comic in this. There's the Beatles. There's oh my god, there's so many music references in this book. The one that I used on the cassette tape is Helter Skelter by the Beatles. I think it's an album. I'm not sure. It could be the title track of the album that's named the same thing. But it is, if you're looking for new music, this is a book to read. Truly. But yeah, I really loved this one. This, on the Cop-Out scale, I gave 7.57, which for me gave it 4 stars. 4 stars in my rating. Boy, if I wasn't emotionally stable, I'm not emotionally stable. I don't know why I'm lying to you. But I think if I was in a different kind of headspace, I would have cried reading this book, I think. Now we're on to March. In March, the only book I started reading was Furthermore, and then I couldn't read forever afterwards, it felt like. Furthermore, I gave only 1 page because the the reading time of it spread across, I think, 2 months for me. March and April. And so I didn't remember much about it, so I just wrote what I could remember. This is a signed copy of the book. I got this, like many books, like I mentioned before, on my shelf years ago. And so when I picked it up again and I saw the sticker on it that was like signed copy, I was like, oh, I'm bougie like that. Okay. Okay. I didn't know I could be bougie like that. Where did I get a signed copy? Because I'm pretty sure I didn't get this in a bookstore. I'm pretty sure I got this at like Dollar Tree or something when it was still a Dollar Tree or something. I don't know. But Furthermore is a duo, I think. There is a second book in the series. And I don't know if it connects to Furthermore or not. But I kind of hope it does. I kind of hope we keep the main character, Alice. Because I love her character, how she's written. These kids are 12, by the way. These children are 12 and they have faced death more than the average adult. Okay? It is unreal in this book. But one thing I really love about the way that Tehere, I probably butchered her name and I'm so sorry. The way that she writes, she is literally talking to the reader sometimes, right? Like she is literally addressing the reader, dear reader, XYZ, XYZ, right? In some of this bits. Cause like she uses that as a way to explain how some of this stuff is going. Cause the way that she writes, well, okay, let me get this right. The way that she uses those dear reader paragraphs in the main, like in the story flow, is like she's reporting on the life of Alice and the other character, Oliver, from a third person perspective, but she's writing this story from their perspective, right? So it's like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I understood it. It's like, oh my goodness. But either way, I loved it. This book was, like a lot of the other ones that I've read, beautifully written. There were moments where it's like, where I thought the main thing wasn't going to get done in this book. Like, I didn't think that they were going to actually achieve the goal of this book in this book. But at the end, it was like, oh yeah, that's actually kind of a very nice way to wrap it up, because you referenced this earlier enough and vaguely enough that we didn't remember it. We don't question why it's not being used until you realize this is the perfect moment for this thing to be used, to not elongate this situation. Just get in, get out, done. But this is probably the shortest entry I have in this, but it's beautiful, y'all. I'm kind of upset that I didn't read it consistently. I really wish I was able to read it consistently, because I feel like I would have been able to write a lot more about it. But either way, his cop-out rating for me was 8.28. So for me, that was 4 stars. Oh my god, I love this book. I truly did. It was good. I can't wait for the second one. I want to get the second one, but like, I'd have to be able to find it. So now I'm basically just like doing some bookkeeping, literally, where I'm updating my index, my reading goals thing. Yeah, and there you can see my cop-out ratings, my book tracker, and my series tracker. So yeah, on the list, I put the second book in that series, in the Furthermore series, on the list, and then I added Furthermore to my thing. And then now I'm working on my quarterly statistics. Now, let me tell you, I'm still trying to figure out how to do this, because I do want to keep track of these. I do want to keep track of my statistics in a way. So I'm just going to read them off as I do the chart. So like, I have four pieces, 4 quarters, literally. One is for genres, one is for number of pages, one is for star ratings, and one is for month read. Because I'm doing these on a quarterly basis, I'm not gonna have like per month thing. I'm just gonna compile it all into a quarter and be done with it. So I'm not giving myself too much to think about and stressing myself out. So my genres, I use Goodreads and Storygraph to track. I'm leaning towards Storygraph now. So I don't know if I might just update my Goodreads after the fact, but I'm going to keep track on Storygraph. So the genres that I pulled were young adult, romance, fantasy, middle grade, dystopian, and contemporary. I think middle grade is for Furthermore, because it is, I do think that's the intended audience, is for children in middle school, sort of. Dystopian for sure is from that Matched series, but I had 3 books that qualified for young adult, 2 books that qualified for romance and fantasy, and 1 book for middle grade, dystopian, and contemporary. And then my number of pages is 1,486 pages, which is 356 books on average per pages per book. My star ratings, I had 1 3.5, 2 4.0s, and 1 4.25. And then I read 1 book in January, 2 in February, 1 in March. But that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below what you'd like to see next, and subscribe so you don't miss a new video. Until then, bye 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 bye.